Article 2, Section 8 of the United States Constitution. The Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes, duties, United States, but all duties, imposts, and excises shall be uniform throughout the United States. To borrow money on the credit of the United States, to regulate commerce with foreign nations and among the several states and with the Indian tribes, to establish an uniform rule of naturalization and uniform laws on foreign coin and fix the standard of weights and measures, to provide for the punishment of counterfeiting the securities and current coin of the United States, to establish post offices and post roads, to promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing for limited times to authors and inventors the exclusive right to their respective writings and discoveries, to constitute tribunals inferior to the Supreme Court, to define and punish piracies and felonies committed on the high seas and offenses against the law of captures on land and water, to raise and support armies, but no appropriation of money to that use shall be for a longer term than 2 years, to provide and maintain a navy, to make rules for the government and regulation of the land and naval forces, to provide for calling forth the militia to execute the laws of the Union, suppress insurrections, and repel invasions, to provide for organizing, arming, and disciplining the militia, and for governing such part of them as may be employed in the service of the United States, reserving to the states respectively the appointment of the officers and the authority of training the militia according to the discipline prescribed by Congress, to exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over such district not exceeding 10 miles square as may by session of particular states and the acceptance of of Congress become the seat of the government of the United States.
Shall be on the first returns and qualifications of its own members, and a majority of each shall constitute a quorum to do business. But a smaller number may adjourn from day to day. Each house may determine the rules of its proceedings, punish its members for disorderly behavior, and with the concurrence of 2 members expel a member, each house shall keep a journal of its proceedings, and from time to time publish the same, except shall at the desire of one-fifth of those present be entered on the journal. Neither house during the session of Congress shall, without the consent of the other, adjourn for more than 3 days, nor to any other place than that in which the two houses shall be sitting. Section 6. Senators and representatives shall receive a compensation for their services to be ascertained by law, paid out of the Treasury of the United States. They shall in all cases, except treason, felony, and breach of the peace, be privileged from arrest during their attendance at the session of dates which shall have been created, or the emoluments whereof shall have been
to provide for organizing, arming, and disciplining the militia, reserving to the states, respectively, the appointment of the officers and the authority of training the militia according to the discipline prescribed, not exceeding 10 miles square, is made by session of particular states, and the acceptance of Congress become the seat of the government of the United States, and to exercise like authority over all places purchased by the consent of the legislature of the state in which the same shall be, for the erection of forts, magazines, arsenals, dockyards, and other needful buildings, and to make all laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foregoing powers, and all other powers vested by this Constitution in the government of the United States, or in any department or officer thereof. Section 9. The migration or importation of such persons as any of the states now existing shall think proper to admit shall not be prohibited by the Congress prior to the year 1808. But a tax or duty may be imposed on such importation, not exceeding $10 for each person. The privilege of the writ of habeas corpus shall not be suspended unless when in cases of rebellion or invasion the public safety may require it. No bill of attainder or ex post facto law shall be passed. No capitation or other direct tax shall be laid unless in proportion to the census or enumeration herein before directed to be taken. No tax or duty shall of commerce or revenue to the ports of one state over those of another, nor shall vessels bound to or from one state be obliged to enter, clear, or pay duties in another. No money shall be drawn from the treasury, but in consequence of appropriations made by law. No title of nobility shall be granted by the United States, and no person holding any office of profit or trust under them shall, without the consent of the Congress, accept of any present, emolument, office, or title of any kind whatever from any king, prince, or foreign state, United States, reserving to the states respectively the appointed officers and the authorities prescribed. Okay, I hope you're enjoying. This is the book club. This is the John Kitover book club. We're reading the U.S. Constitution. Okay, this is book club with John Kitover. This is called Reading the U.S. Constitution. Mojo X is back. Oh my god. Mojo X has arrived. Okay, this is Reading the U.S. Constitution by candidate Congressman John. Okay, this is the John Kitover Book Club, reading books live here on X. Hope you're enjoying it. I'm going to recreate one more clubhouse room. Okay, this is Reading the U.S. Constitution in 3-minute intervals, and I'm posting these on YouTube. I hope you stick around for at least one as I get it set up. Just give me 30 more seconds. Here we go. This is Section 9 and Section 10, Article 1. Actually, we're going to start at Section 10. Here we go. Article 1, Section 10 of the United States Congress, read by candidate Congress of marquee and reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts, pass any bill of attainder, ex post facto law, or law impairing the obligation of duties on imports or exports, except what may be absolutely necessary for executing its inspection laws, and the net produce of all duties and imposts laid by any state on imports or exports shall be for the use of the Treasury of the United States, and all such laws shall be subject to the revision and control of the Congress. No state shall, without the consent of Congress, lay any duty of tonnage, keep troops or ships of war in time of peace, enter into any agreement or compact with another state or with a foreign power, or engage in war unless actually invaded, or in such of power shall be vested in a President of the United States of America. He shall hold his office during the term of 4 years, and together with the Vice President, chosen for the same term, be elected as follows. Each state shall appoint in such manner as the legislature thereof may direct a number of electors equal to the whole number of senators and representatives, to which by ballot for 2 persons, of whom one at least shall not be an inhabitant of the same state with themselves. And they shall make it sealed to the seat of the government of the United States, directed to the President of the Senate. The President of the Senate shall, in the presence of the Senate and House of Representatives, if such number be a majority of the whole number of electors appointed, and if there be more than one who have such majority and have an equal number of votes,
between her activates the innate wisdom, understanding, in knowing the three mothers that reside in body, heart, and mind, and cultivates the respective capacities for compassion, justice, balance, persistence, surrender, direction, and Sephiroth, the early numbers of the building blocks of creation. Chesed.
Okay. This is the U.S. Constitution in 3-minute intervals. I hope you enjoy. Constitution, read by candidate Congressman John Kitover. Each state shall appoint in such manner as the legislature thereof may direct a number of electors equal to the whole number of senators and representatives to which the state may be entitled in the Congress, but no senator or representative or person holding an office of trust or profit under the United States shall be appointed an elector. The electors shall meet in their respective states and vote by ballot for 2 persons, of whom one at least shall not be an inhabitant of the same state with themselves. And they shall make a list of all transmit sealed to the seat of the government of the United States, directed to the President of the Senate. President of the Senate shall, in the presence of the Senate and House of Representatives, open all the certificates, and the votes shall then be counted. The person having the ballot, one of them for president, and if no person have a majority, then from the 5 highest on the list the said House shall in like manner choose the president. But in choosing the president, the vote shall be taken by states, the representation from each state having 1 vote. Quorum for this purpose shall consist of a member or members from 2/3 of the states, and a majority of all the states shall be necessary to a choice. In every case, after the choice of the president, the person having the greatest number of votes of the electors shall be the vice president. But if there should remain 2 or more who have equal votes, the Senate shall choose from them by ballot the vice president. The Congress may determine the time of choosing the electors and the day on which they shall give their votes, which day shall be the same throughout the United States. No person except a natural-born citizen or a citizen of the United States at the time of the adoption of this Constitution shall be eligible to the office of president. Neither shall any person be eligible to that office who shall not have attained to the age of 35 years and been 14 years a resident within the United States. In case of the removal of the president from office or of his death, resignation, or inability to discharge the powers and duties of the said office, the same shall devolve on the vice president.
senators and representatives to which the state may be entitled in the Congress, but no senator or representative or five granting conditions, which shall expire. Section 1 of the United States Constitution, read by candidate Congressman John Kitover. Each state shall appoint in such manner as the legislature thereof may direct a number of electors equal to the whole number of senators and representatives to which the state may be entitled in the Congress, but no senator or representative or person holding an office of trust or profit under the United States shall be appointed, and electors shall not be an inhabitant of the same state with themselves. And they shall make a list of all the persons voted for, and of the number of votes for each, which list they shall sign and certify, and transmit sealed to the seat of the government of the United States, directed to the President of the Senate. President of the Senate shall, in the presence of the Senate and the House of Representatives, open all the certificates, and the votes shall then be counted. The person having the greatest number of votes shall be the President, if such number be a majority of the whole number of electors appointed, and if there be more than one who has such majority, and have an equal number of votes, then the House of Representatives shall immediately choose by ballot one of them for President. And if no person have a majority, then from the five highest on the list the said House shall in like manner choose the President. But in choosing the President, the vote shall be taken by states, representation from each state having one vote. Quorum for this purpose shall consist of a member or members from 2/3 of the states, and a majority of all the states shall be necessary to a choice. In every case, after the choice of the President, the person having the greatest number of votes, the electors, shall be the Vice President. But if there should remain two or more, yes.
Okay, this is book club. We're reading the Constitution. We shall continue. This is going to be a full-time part series, it seems. Article 2, Section 1 of the United States Constitution, read by candidate Congressman John Kitover of Illinois District 16. No person, except a natural-born citizen or a citizen of the United States at the time of the adoption of this Constitution, shall be eligible to 10 years of residence within the United States. In case of the removal of the President from office or of his death, resignation, or inability to discharge the powers and duties of the said office, the same shall devolve on the Vice President, and the Congress may by law provide for the case of removal, death, resignation, or inability, both of the President and Vice President, declaring what officer shall then act as President, and such officer shall act accordingly until the disability be removed, or a President shall be elected. The President shall at stated times receive for his services a compensation, which shall neither be increased nor diminished during the period for which he shall have been elected, and he shall not receive within that period any other emolument from the United States, or any of them, before he enter on the execution, that I will faithfully execute the office of the President of the United States, and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. Section 2. The President shall be Commander in Chief of the Army and Navy of the United States and of the militia of the several states. When called into the actual service of the United States, he may require the opinion in writing of the principal officer in each of the executive departments upon any subject relating to the duties of the respective offices, and he shall have power to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, except in cases of impeachment. He shall have power, by and with the advice and consent of the Senate, to make treaties, provided 2/3 of the senators present concur, and he shall nominate, and by and with the advice and consent of the Senate shall appoint ambassadors, other public ministers and counsels, judges of the Supreme Court, and all other officers may by law vest the appointment of such inferior officers as they think proper, in the President alone, in the courts of law, or in the heads of departments.
Article 2, Section 1 of the United States Constitution.
This is Book Club with John Kitover. We're reading the Constitution. Caleb is here. Caleb. Oh, Caleb came in just for a hot second. Rules and laws.
John Kitover. No state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, confederation, grant letters of marque and reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin and tender, payment debts. As any bill of attainder, no state shall, without the consent of the Congress, lay any imposts, duties on imports or exports, except what may be absolutely necessary for executing its inspection laws, and that all duties and imposts laid by any state on imports or exports shall be for the use of the Treasury of the United States, and all such laws shall be subject to the revision and control of the Congress. No state shall, without the consent of Congress, lay any duty of tonnage, keep troops or ships of war in time of peace, enter into any agreement or compact with another state, with a
vested in the President of the United States of America. Except a natural-born citizen or a citizen of the United States at the time of the District 16. No person, except a natural-born citizen or a citizen of the United States at the time of the adoption of this Constitution, shall be eligible to the office of President. Neither shall any person be eligible to that office who shall not have attained to the age of 35 years and been 14 years a resident within the United States. In case of the removal of the President from office or of his death, resignation, or inability to discharge the powers and duties of the said office, the same shall involve the Vice President. The Congress may, by law, provide for the case of removal, death, resignation, or inability, both of the President and Vice President to bear what office or shall that governing such part of them as may be employed in the service of the United States, reserving to the states, respectively, the appointment of the officers and the authority of training the militia according to the discipline prescribed by Congress, can exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever of the government of the United States, to exercise like authority over all places purchased by the consent of the legislature of the state in which the same shall be, for the erection of forts, magazines, arsenals, dockyards, and other needful buildings, and to make all laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying into execution foregoing powers, and all other powers vested by this Constitution in the government of the United States, or in any department or officer thereof. Section 9. The migration or importation of such persons as any of the states now existing shall think proper to admit, shall not. Okay, this is the rest of the U.S. Constitution. Hope you're enjoying this. Hope you're enjoying it as much as I am, because I'm really enjoying reading this. This is the John Kevin book about reading books live. We're reading you. Article 2, Section 2 of the United States Constitution, read to you by candidate Congressman John Kitover of Illinois 16. Go to johnforcongress.com. The President shall have power to fill up all vacancies that may happen during the recess of the Senate by granting commissions which shall expire at the end of their next session. Section 3. He shall from time to time give to the Congress information of the state of the Union and recommend to their consideration such measures as he shall judge necessary and expedient. He may on extraordinary occasions convene both houses or either of them, and in case of disagreement between them with respect to the time of adjournment, he may adjourn them to such time as he shall think proper. He shall receive ambassadors and other public ministers. He shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed, and shall commission all the officers of the United States. Section 4. The President, Vice President, and all civil officers of the United States shall be removed from office on impeachment. The judicial power of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court, and in such inferior courts as the Congress may from time to time ordain and establish. The judges, both of the Supreme and inferior courts, shall hold their offices during good behavior, and shall at stated times receive for the services a compensation which shall not be diminished during their continuance in office. Section 2. The judicial power shall extend to all cases in law and equity rising under this Constitution, the laws of the United States, and treaties made or which shall be made under their authority, to all cases affecting ambassadors, other public ministers and consuls, to all cases of admiralty and maritime jurisdiction, to controversies to which the United States shall be a party, to controversies between two or more states, between a state and citizens of another state, between citizens of different states, between citizens of the same state, claiming lands under grants of different states, and between a state or the citizens thereof and foreign states, citizens or subjects. In all cases affecting ambassadors, other public ministers and consuls, and those in which a state shall be party, the Supreme Court shall have original jurisdiction. In all the other cases before mentioned, the Supreme Court shall have appellate jurisdiction. But as to law and fact, with such exceptions and under such regulations as the Congress shall make. The President shall have power vacancies that may happen during the recess of the Senate. Okay, that's Article 3, Section 2, I think. I'm going to check out Mojo's room as I label the rest of these if he's in the muff.
Entities, I would love to speak with one-on-one, perhaps a former, like a retired military personnel who was tasked with, top secret alien experiments. I believe these people exist. I have binders. This is going to be hard to believe, but I have binders. Over the years, I've collected binders. This might either be pathetic or speak to my black girl nerd nature. Binders of research that I've done over the years about these topics. Primarily because I've collected this information for helping draft fictional stories. But once you start deep diving into some of these reports and opinions and testimonies, quite convincing and compelling, and Operation Blue Book and et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, if I could turn my attention from entertainment reporting and be paid to do a deep dive into UFO cover-up, government conspiracies, alien technology used by our government and military, warcraft, and et cetera, allegedly. Yeah, I would do that. This field intrigues me greatly.
My issue with this field, like, I agree with you. It does intrigue me because I don't believe we're the only species out there. I'm not one of these Christians that like thinks that Sky Daddy created me. I think there are other life forms, and even NASA has recognized that there are lights that are just zillions of miles down into the other atmosphere. My problem is the way people on Earth project this myth about aliens. First and foremost, they're not going to the southwest of the United States. Like, that's not tactically, it would make no sense if I was to invade Earth to kill off people. First, I'm going to hover over areas where I'm going to be maybe camouflage. I'm going to use infiltration techniques, which you would assume an alien species would have, since they've already designed the flight, the length times, and the capabilities to go across trillions of light years to come to our planet. And somehow you think that they're just dumb enough to plant themselves in the middle of a cornfield in Nebraska, pick up some guy, shove an anal probe up his ass, and then think that that's the extent of it. I just think that the way we look at aliens, we don't look at it in the way that reality would be. They would come to the ocean, where the world is water. They would find some place there. They would probably to land and explore a little bit. Obviously, they would have the capabilities to land in a cold-ass climate where there is less chance for them to be seen, more priorities to be able to defend, which would be northern Russia, Canada, Sahara Desert. That makes some sense. Not in fucking corn-fed bread, Nebraska. I just don't buy it. I don't. Like, everyone keeps saying these aliens are all over the place and emergent, and they see it in the sky, and they're saying it's over Chicago. Maybe. I'm not discrediting them, but it just doesn't seem tactically clearly explored other planets. They would not go to an epicenter of a population or a busy area and kind of go there.
I was y'all aware the thing is heading not toward Earth, but it's gonna come closer. It's a 12-mile long object moving at 135,000 miles per hour, so they say. And some scientists are calling it a comet, but they say it's not acting like a comet. There's one Harvard scientist that said he believes it's an alien craft, and it should get by Mars by December, like somewhere in there. I forgot exactly what they said there, but and they said a positive that it's not from this galaxy. It's from somewhere. It's interstellar. Whatever the fuck that means. It's the first object that ever came from another. So it's not galaxy. So whatever the fuck came from. Y'all should do it. But they say it's coming close to Earth. And one scientist said it's alien space. But
Yeah, I heard about that, Akima.
But to be fair, Kima, you actually believe the world is flat. So, I
mean, that ain't got nothing to do with the report I just gave. That's coming from
objects doesn't mean they're aliens. They could be. They're just unidentified flying objects. And now, with today's things, we have people flying drones. Like, we have people, although I will give some credence to it. It does help with the search. Drones do help if they're deployed in a certain fashion and they're used. But a lot of these idiots were doing fucking selfies with their drones. They were signing them up, trying to do their little TikTok, Instagram reels to show how bad it was down there and do them. And they also interfere in flying about in the neighborhood doing stupid shit and threw lights on it or dressed it up as something. And I think we're just going to see more of this.
You know, they're one of the most famous alien abduction stories. And who was starring in it? I think Demi Moore and Coleman Domingo. I read one because I'm trying to remember where I read this. Some UFO alien outer space book that I have, or some FBI file. I don't know. That the Greys specifically. So the Greys didn't come. 1012 had time down. 1012 had time. The Greys and the reptilians are centuries old
The
enemies.
president shall have
And the Greys have infiltrated many aspects of, the reptilians have infiltrated many aspects of our
commission, which shall
political
expire.
system.
And the next section. Section 3. He shall from time to time give to the Congress information of the state of the Union and recommend to their consideration such measures as he shall judge necessary and expedient. He may on extraordinary occasions convene both houses or either of them, and in case of disagreement
All of
between them,
the universe will be impacted, specifically some of these so-called
to such time as he shall think proper. He shall receive ambassadors and other public ministers. He shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed, and shall commission all the officers of the United States. Section 4. The President, Vice President, and all civil officers of the United States shall be
expire at the end of the next session. That's 3. So, okay? Respect that.
This is the John Kitover Book Club. We're reading the U.S. Constitution. If you want to join our book club, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and join our book club. This is the John Kitover Book Club. We're reading what's called books, because most people have brain rot, and they're no longer reading anything. John Kitover. No state shall enter Section 2 of the United States Constitution. States. say it's a fine morning or I'll shoot you. Get out. Don't say it's a fine morning or I'll shoot you. Get out of here, Bunyan. Good morning. Carlos, what do you... grew up in an area that
Conditions which shall expire.
Section 1 of the A candidate congressman. A candidate congressman. Section 2 of the United States Constitution, read to you by candidate Congressman John Kitover of Illinois 16.
Conditions.
That we want the guy to be able to reply. So we want the guy to be able to reply.
Section 1 of the United States Constitution. Section. A candidate congressman. Okay, sorry for the delay. I'm going to read the Constitution a little bit more. I think it's going to take me probably like a day to get through the whole thing. These are 3-minute intervals. Here we go. Okay, this is Article 3. Article 3 of the U.S. Constitution, read by candidate Congressman John Kitover of the 16th District in Illinois. Go to johnforcongress.com. Article 3, Section 1. The judicial power of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court, and in such of the Supreme and inferior courts shall hold their offices during good behavior, and shall at stated times receive for their services a compensation, which shall not be diminished during their continuance in office. Section 2. The judicial power shall extend to all cases in law and equity arising under this Constitution, the laws of the United States, and treaties made or which shall be made under their authority, to all cases affecting ambassadors, other public ministers and consuls, to all cases of admiralty and maritime jurisdiction, to controversies to which the United States shall be a party, to controversies between two or more states, between a state and citizens of another state, between citizens of different states, between citizens of the same state claiming lands under grants of different states, and between a state or the citizens thereof and foreign states, citizens or subjects, in all cases affecting ambassadors, other public ministers and councils, and those in which a state shall be party, the Supreme Court shall have original jurisdiction. In all the other cases before mentioned, the Supreme Court shall have appellate jurisdiction, both as to law and fact, with such exceptions, and under such regulations as the Congress shall make. The trial of all crimes, except in cases of impeachment, shall be by jury, and such trial shall be held in the state where the said crimes shall have been committed, but when not committed within any state, the trial shall be at such place or places as the Congress may by law have directed. Section 3. Treason against the United States shall consist only in levying war against them, or in adhering to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort. No person shall be convicted of treason unless on the testimony of two witnesses to the same overt act, or on confession in open court. The Congress shall have power to declare the punishment of treason, but no attainder of treason shall work corruption of blood or forfeiture except during the life of the person attainted. Article 5, Section 1. Full faith and credit shall be given in each state to the public acts.
Article 3 of the U.S. Constitution, read by candidate Congressman.
The 16th is Cuba.
For Congress.com, John.
December, unless they shall by law appoint a different day. Section 5. Each house shall be the judge of the elections, returns and qualifications of its own members, and a majority of each shall constitute a quorum to do business, but a smaller number may adjourn from day to day, and may be authorized to compel the attendance of absent members in such manner and under such penalties as each house may provide. Each house may determine the rules of its proceedings, punish its members for disorderly behavior, and with the concurrence of 2/3, expel a member. Each house shall keep a journal of its proceedings, and from time to time publish the same, excepting such parts as may in their judgment require secrecy. Neither house during the session of Congress shall, without the consent of the other, adjourn for more than 3 days, nor to any other place than that in which the two houses shall be sitting. Section 6. The senators and representatives shall receive a compensation for their peace, be privileged from arrest during their attendance at the session of their respective houses, and in going to and returning from the same. And for any speech or debate in either house, they shall not be questioned in any other place. No senator or representative shall, during the time for which he was elected, be appointed to any civil office under the authority of the United States, which shall have been created, or the emoluments whereof shall have been increased during such time, and no person holding any office under the United
shall be a member of either house during his continuance in office. Section 7. All bills from raising revenue shall originate in the House of Representatives, but the Senate may propose or concur with amendments as on other bills. Every bill which shall have passed the House of Representatives and the Senate shall, before it becomes a law, be presented to the President of the United States. If he approve, he shall sign it, but if not, he shall return it with his objections to that House in which it shall have originated, who shall enter the objections at large on the journal and proceed to reconsider it. After such reconsideration, 2/3 of that House shall agree to pass the bill. It shall be sent, together with the objections, to the other House, by which it shall likewise be reconsidered. And if approved by 2/3 of that House, it shall become a law. Congress shall assemble. Section 3, Article 1 of the U.S. Constitution, read by candidate Congressman John Kitover. The Senate of the United States shall be composed of 2 senators from each. The senators of the first class shall be vacated at the expiration of the second year, of the second class at the expiration of the 4th year, and of the third class at the expiration of the 6th year, so that 1/3 may be chosen every second year. And if vacancies happen by resignation or otherwise during the recess of the legislature of any state, the executive thereof may make temporary appointments until the next meeting of the legislature, which shall then fill such vacancies. No person shall be a senator who shall not have attained to the age of 30 years and been 9 years a citizen of the United States, and who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of that state for which he shall be chosen. The Vice President of the United States shall be President of the Senate, but shall have no vote unless they be equally divided. The Senate shall choose their other officers, and also a President pro tempore in the absence of the Vice President, or when he shall exercise the office of the President of the United States. The Senate shall have the sole power to try all impeachments. When sitting for that purpose, they shall be on oath or affirmation. When the President of the United States is tried, the Chief Justice shall preside, and no person shall be convicted without the concurrence of 2/3 of the members present. Judgment in cases of impeachment shall not extend further than to removal from office and disqualification to hold and enjoy any office of honor, trust, or profit under the United States. But the party convicted shall nevertheless be liable and subject to indictment, trial, judgment, and punishment according to law. Section 4. The times, places, and manner of holding elections for senators and representatives shall be prescribed in each state. This Constitution, read by candidate Congressman John Kitover of the 16th District of Columbia. The Congress Article 3, Section 1. The judicial power of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court, and in such inferior courts as the Congress may from time to time ordain and establish. The judges, both of the Supreme and inferior courts, shall hold their offices during good behavior, shall at stated times receive for their services a compensation, which shall not be diminished during their continuance in office. Section 2. The judicial power shall extend to all cases, Article 3, Section 1, arising under this Constitution, the laws of the United States, and treaties made reserving to the states respectively the appointment of the officers and the authority of training the militia according to the number unless they shall be to exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever. This Constitution, read by candidate Congressman John Kitover of the 6th become the seat of the government of the United States. Lands under grants of different states, and between the state, the citizens thereof, and foreign states, citizens or subjects, in all cases affecting ambassadors, other public ministers and councils, and those
Congressman John Kitover of the 16th District of Illinois. Go to JohnForCongress.com. Article 3, Section 1, the judicial power of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court and in such inferior courts as the Congress may from time to time ordain and establish. The judges, both of the Supreme and inferior courts, shall hold their offices during good behavior, and shall at stated times receive for their judicial power shall extend to all cases in law and equity.
Article 4 of the U.S. Constitution, read by U.S. Army veteran and candidate Congressman John Kitover of the 16th District of Illinois. Go to johnforcongress.com. Article 4, Section 1. Full faith and credit shall be given in each state to the public acts, records, and judicial proceedings of every other state, and the Congress may, by general laws, prescribe the manner in which such acts, records, and proceedings shall be proved and the effect thereof. Section 2. The citizens of each state shall be entitled to all privileges and immunities of citizens in the several states. A person charged in any state with treason, felony, or other crime, who shall flee from justice, be bound in another state, shall on demand of the executive authority of the state from which he fled be delivered up, to be removed to the state having jurisdiction of the crime. Note Section 3. New states may be admitted by the Congress into this union, but no new state shall be formed or erected within the jurisdiction of any other state, or any state be formed by the junction of two or more states, or parts of states, without the consent of the legislatures of the states concerned as well as of the Congress. The Congress shall have power to dispose of and make all needful rules and regulations respecting the territory or other property belonging to the United States, and nothing in this Constitution shall be so construed as to prejudice any claims of the United States or of any particular state. Section 4. The United States shall guarantee to every state in this union a republican form of government, and shall protect each of them against invasion, and on application of the legislature or of the executive, when the legislature cannot be convened, against domestic violence. Article 5. The Congress, whenever 2/3 of both houses shall deem it necessary, shall propose amendments to this Constitution or on the valid to all intents and purposes as part of this Constitution, when ratified by the legislatures of 3/4 of the several states or by conventions and 3/4 thereof, as the one or the other mode of ratification may be proposed by the Congress, provided that no amendment which may be made prior to the year 1808 shall in any manner affect the first and fourth clauses in the 9th section of the first article.
Full faith and credit shall be given in each state to the public acts, records, and judicial proceedings of every other state, and the Congress.
Okay, this is John Kitover Book Club. We're almost finished. I think we'll do one more round and then that'll be it.
They're going to take the disputed border that they have with Russia. That's what I think is going to happen. I think this is the time for Russia to be completely isolated, and in wrestling, you know, if you turn to the good side, you call that a face turn. I don't know if I agree with that statement. I think they'll optically do a face turn and they'll do a pause on things, but I
Wait, did you just say that you think Russia is going to take over parts of China?
No, the opposite. China's going to take over parts of Russia.
But
I think as soon as Xi's out of power, I think the new regime is going to snuggle up with the U.S.
have you ever been to a Chinese dog festival?
It's an interesting question. The answer is no.
I'm just saying, when you see, I mean, the Chinese are fierce and they're aggressive, but I aren't they totally logical? I mean, they don't want mass casualties. Nobody wants, political turmoil. They're all about control and peace and balance. But they're
Why
extremely
are they creating viruses?
because Dr. Fauci and the NIH and the CDC and Peter Strzok and Eco Health Alliance decided that funding Wuhan lab and creating a global pandemic that Bill Gates kept prophesizing was a good idea. And turns out it was financially, because $6 trillion was created to chalk it up amongst Pfizer, Moderna, J&J, and hundreds of other corporations and increase the U.S. national debt by $6 trillion. It was an incredible operation.
China's been experimenting with biological weapons since post their repulsion of the Japanese army after the rape of Nanking. They've been experimenting with that multiple times. In fact, they actually have a history prior to that, but they've been heavily expended on that post World War II.
If y'all don't know the U.S. and China work together with that shit, y'all can.
You know what the craziest statistic is out of China is if you look at their top 25 cities and you look at their annual budgets and you compare that to US top city annual budgets, it dwarfs it like 10 to 1. Now, I don't know if that's because of the total number of people living in a 50 million person city or a 35 million person city, or if it's because that's their economic model. Does anyone have an opinion?
I wonder if Angelica has an opinion. John, why do you think the Wuhan lab was? Why did we put it there? Why, like, if we wanted to create this thing, why didn't we just create it like somewhere here in the States? Why did we have to do it in China?
I assume because there's a lot less compliance and oversight, and you can get away with doing it in a foreign country underneath the guise of research and development.
Do you think maybe it could have had to do with the plan was to try to kill off as many Chinese people as possible because they're useless eaters?
Well, yesterday in the news, they said there is a new, fresh outbreak of some type of pandemic in China, and they got those trucks with the fumes that they spray through the streets. I don't know what it's like to live in China, but when your government continually sprays your streets down with a white toxic, and what did you ask?
Oh man, I miss being asked questions. I'm just wondering, like, why we couldn't have done it like in Mexico. It would have been closer. It seems to get very efficient. Seems to get very efficient.
So we were funding cross the platforms, and we were doing that there. There's no denying that way we had involvement in the region. I give it to one of the chief rivals on the geopolitical stage to have that, and we wouldn't allow that research to go on. So we would put it back on Plum Island, Diego Garcia's, one of the Caribbean islands we hold, or one of the black sites that we have around the world. We have many of those. Bikini Atoll. We have Alaska that do that. We have research facilities in the U.S. Just many of you don't know about them. And we can even do it out at sea. We've done research out at sea. So, I mean, it seems weird that the conspiracy theorists think that somehow the U.S. and China are in bed together to create a biological weapon, and that we would build it, design it, implement it in China's backyard, giving them
asked Grok today about COVID-19 origins, Dr. Fauci, and Grok only cites World Health Organization statistics and actually quotes CDC, but uses WHO as the primary source of all.
The original gain of function research started at Fort Detrick. But remember that this COVID virus disproportionately killed older people with comorbidities, and China's had a one-child policy for a long time. I'm not saying, that anybody will admit it, but if they get rid of a lot of old people in China, this probably would be the way to.
Does anyone here actually trust their government, or do you think people in other countries also trust their government with 100% full faith and credit? Because I don't know about you, but based on stupid people on Clubhouse and the stupid people I've met throughout my life, I have very little trust in the competence, the fiduciary responsibilities, as people love to toss that word up here all the time, fiduciary. Does anyone here think that their U.S. government is comprised of extremely intelligent people, or do you think we are plagued with what's known as DEI?
Listen, I don't know that we're plagued with DEI as much as we are plagued with corruption. I know a lot of folks have hard-ons for DEI, but I don't think DEI is the root cause of a lot of our problems. I think it's corruption and a lack of caring for the people. These politicians, whether they're on the left or the right, don't give a hot damn about people, the Americans. Doesn't matter if you're black, white, male, straight, gay, etc., etc. Has nothing to do with DEI, sir. Thank you.
That's just a question. I was just asking if anybody thinks that DEI was a problem in federal agencies, because now that Donald Trump is president and he's done away with DEI, technically it should all be gone. But I wonder how many people who were part of the DEI movement were actually terminated from U.S. government positions, but now are just secretly doing communication.
I got a question for you, John. Can I ask you? Angelica seems to think that if we just got rid of the racists and the sexists that voted for Trump, everything would be fine.
Well, I think Democrats are a major problem. They are in control of all of our borrowing and spending. And I'm absolutely sick of borrowing and spending at the federal and state and city levels. And guess what that means? I am absolutely sick of Democrats. And if anybody here in this room calls themselves a Democrat, please explain to me, why people should continue voting for Democrats. Thank you very little.
I'm not a Democrat. Like y'all don't even listen. Like you pretend to be smart but never listen to shit.
What did you vote for?
What the hell to do with anything?
Wait, hold on. If he didn't vote for somebody that was black and woman, then I think Angelica might have a problem.
But he even did vote for Kamala.
Shit, you about to make a friend.
He's gonna make a Nazi Mexican a friend. Damn, Kima, don't do it, bro. Don't. I love. Don't do it. Don't do it to yourself.
No, because somebody voted Democrat or Republican, they are a Democrat or Republican. Is that what you're saying? There's a lot of independents and libertarians and all types of shit that vote Democrat and Republican. But somehow, just because I voted for Kamala, I gotta be a Democrat.
Who do you think is a bigger liberal, a Democrat or a libertarian? Hakima, the question is, and it's for anybody in the room, who do you think is the bigger liberal, a Democrat or a libertarian?
Hey, don't cut me off to ask me a question when I'm trying to finish something.
Sorry, then just go ahead. But that was the question I wanted to ask the room. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt, Hakima.
You guys are really getting your money's worth on the axe thing.
I know, right? But the only reason I say this is because you are very much in every opposition to it. And you never the Democrats. And you always say Democrats are superior to the Republicans. So that is my fault for assuming, based on your own statements, that you more closely align or more involved with the Democrat Party.
Hey, Brad, for a year and a half, for a year and a half, I sat here and shitted on both Obama in his second term. And I literally sat on in healthy debates and shitted on both parties. And I ended up voting for Kamala because of Trump. And
They need out of here, like.
I hear it all the time. Man, where did they put you? An hour ago? What's wrong with this dude? Foolish.
You're hearing all the way you're coming at me right now is not changing my mind. In fact, it's making me lean the other way.
Who gives a shit? Let me give you all.
Okay, this is candidate Congressman John Kitover reads U.S. Constitution. We're almost finished getting through the Constitution this morning. This is Article 6. Veteran John Kitover of the 16th District of Illinois. All debts contracted and engagements entered into before the adoption of this Constitution shall be as valid against the United States under this Constitution as under the Confederation. This Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made, or which shall be made, under the authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding. The senators and representatives before mentioned, and the members of the several state legislatures, and all executive and judicial officers, both of the United States and of the several states, shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution, but no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office of public trust under the United States. Article 7. The ratification of the conventions of 9 states shall be sufficient for the establishment of this Constitution between the states ratifying the same, done in convention by the unanimous consent of the states present the 17th day of September in the year of our Lord, 1700 G to the degree, Washington, President and Deputy from Virginia, Delaware, Geo Red, Gunning, Bedford, St. Thomas, Jennifer, Donald Kettle, Virginia, John Blair, James Madison Jr., North Carolina, W.M. Blount, Pierce Butler, Georgia, William Few, Abraham Baldwin, New Hampshire, John Langdon, Nicholas Gilman, Massachusetts, Nathaniel Gorham, Rufus King, Connecticut, W.M. Samuel Johnson, Roger Sherman, New York, Alexander Hamilton, New Jersey, William Livingston, David Brearley, W.N. Patterson, Jonah Dayton, Pennsylvania, B. Franklin, Thomas Mifflin, Robert Morris, Geo Clymer, Thos Fitzsimmons, Jared Ingersoll, James Wilson, Goove Morris. Attest William Jackson, Secretary. Article 6 of the U.S. Constitution, read by candidate Congressman and U.S. Army Veteran John Kitover in the 16th District of Illinois.
I don't know what your background is. It doesn't matter.
This Constitution, the laws of the United States, shall be made in pursuance thereof, this Constitution, which shall be made.
I was screen right here today. I think it was last year you did like a mini screenwriting contest. Was that one and done, or is there future
Well,
plans?
we're doing the next one in October, it launches in October. The people have asked for it, they came into my room, they're like, "Nine, when's the next screenwriting competition?" So it's in October.
Okay, yeah, if you can give me
info on that? Like what? It's a short, I assume again. Like
Yeah, it's of course keeping it in my wheelhouse. The short, 10-page screenwriting competition centered on UFO, AI, sci-fi, horror. Yeah, but we'll have all the details in the coming weeks. Yeah.
any of the above genres.
Sonia's here. Sonia won last year. She's not here. Don't let she comes in. Sonia won
Yeah,
last
she
year.
did.
$500 cash prize.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, John. You can ask me.
Are you concerned that at $37 trillion and $1 trillion a year in interest payments, by the year 2050, we will be at over $50 trillion in debt and $4 trillion annual interest payments? If we only collect $5 trillion a year right now, and it's probably not going to go that much up that much further, do you think the United States will be able to afford $4 trillion of interest payments annually?
No, I don't. But I'm gonna be honest with you. I just really think about movies and sci-fi and shit. So, all this extra out. I mean, I care about the economy and the deficit and going in debt. But I'm gonna be honest with you. I really just be thinking about aliens and UFOs and Doctor Who and writing and storytelling. So, don't get too deep on me, John. Okay? Not with the topic of deficit.
Well, they're called Democrats.
It's true. And actually, while I appreciate film and writing, I actually was about to, go on a big fishing trip this weekend, but you reminding me of that trillion, that scenario, I just canceled it. How am I going to go fishing when that is hanging over us?
Yeah, I don't want to follow.
Well, I encourage you, that's a way though. My sister's husband, he told me, he's like, you're wasting your time on X, on Clown House. He goes, I go fly fishing. I was like, well, that's probably a better way. So I agree with you. I do believe in relaxation and meditation despite all of my, political spam. But if that's your way to deal with Clown World, well, that's a good way.
It was until you just brought that up. So I literally just clicked cancel. Thank God I have the 48-hour, refund fully available. Thank you for reminding me where my priorities should be.
Oh, Luce, oh my God.
I think you don't understand.
Okay.
Shirley got me.
Okay. My dad was a Republican, and he voted for the third. He always voted third party when it was available, because he agreed that both parties are just clowns. And every October or November, there was an opportunity to have the apocalypse. We had beans, a bag of beans and a bag of rice. But
John, can I ask you a question? Oh, sorry, Shirley. I thought you were done. Go ahead.
well, I was going to add, my dad would be.
Were you gonna ask or ask?
Please, lighten up on my New York friend up there. Okay. He would be 100 now. And as long as I can remember, he was worried about the upcoming apocalypse. There is a there's a possibility that we can have the apocalypse, but you just don't need to miss any fishing trips over worrying about it.
Shirley, your dad is a wise man, because here's the reality that people don't want to hear. Every species eventually goes extinct. Humans will go extinct. The question is not if. The question is when and how. And if it's inevitable, then you might as well do what you like. Smoke them if you got them.
He wasn't worried about us going extinct. Yeah, he wasn't worried about that, but he was worried about the Mad Max movie. And there's some of these people that would like us to be living the Mad Max life, and I'm not interested. Oh, and I like to buy my groceries from the grocery store that's making enough money to bring me some good stuff.
What's the good stuff? What are you eating there? You eating chitlins?
I never eat a chitlin, but I eat whole foods. That's all I gotta say. Avoid that stuff they won't sell you on with SNAP now, and you're doing better.
What about government-run grocery stores, Shirley? It seems to be a hot topic issue in major liberal cities.
What did I just say? I don't want anybody running my grocery store except for a capitalist who's going to be making money, so he'll bring me good stuff, so I want to come to his store.
Really, what's amazing about Whole Foods is that you can get these incredible deals on the, eggs have obviously been a hot topic, right, since dictator took office. But what's amazing though is that you can get like peanut butter for like $16. That really oily, weird peanut
Wait,
butter.
Moose, is he a dictator because Trump is a dictator, or is it because all presidents are dictators? Which one is it, Moose?
Okay, let me pop in on this. When I said Whole Foods, I just meant.
Why don't we let Moose finish what he was saying? That might be distracting.
Yeah. Okay.
John
No,
Kitover.
sure, go ahead, please. I yield.
Well, I went to
John Kitover, the 16th.
in Dallas when the hippies were running, and I was continued to go after the it got
Unless they
bought out, and they picked. Then I started going to Sprouts because it was cheaper and the food was kind of like the hippies back when Whole Foods was really Whole Foods. Okay, I'm gonna find.
No, it's just fuss. I love the old vernacular. Carry on.
I was going to ask Mojo. I was just reading the U.S. Constitution, going through the 7 articles and all the sections, and I'm just wondering, do you think the founders of this country, in our primary documents, do you think that the principles of, the Mises Institute or frugality are embedded in the original source documents of our country?
I think limits on government is embedded there. I do think that there are some things about in the preamble that gives oxygen to the.
Imagine if the Constitution are these great historical documents that have survived for centuries, living and breathing documents. They were actually written today. They would look like. I shudder at the thought.
See, this is where philosophically I might be able to blow your mind. And that's because the now is all important. And it turns out that the now is a compression. And so guess what's written now? The U.S. Constitution. It's written now, not in 1787. Also, have you ever heard of the names of the people that signed the Constitution in the 7th? Where is it? The names are incredible.
John, what about the fact that the guys that gave us the Bill of Rights, they were in such fear of their lives that they had to use synonyms. They couldn't even use their real names to be able to argue that the Bill of Rights should be included. The original pass of the Constitution wasn't going to include it. It wasn't until these folks articulated that you might not get this thing ratified if you don't include the Bill of Rights. So a lot of people don't understand that the Bill of Rights, which is the best part of the Constitution, that wasn't what the majority was thinking. It was a very vocal minority that threatened to upset the apple cart.
Mojo, you think to that point, then, do you think James Madison identified as them in order to protect his identity?
No, but when it comes to them, I would say that the Holy Trinity just defines itself as them. It's the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. So I definitely think the proper pronoun for God would be them.
So when you look at the Declaration of Independence versus the Constitution, aren't they technically both a set of rules?
No, Declaration of Independence is a list of grievances.
But I mean, statements like, it just seems to me, for imposing taxes on us without our consent. There's just so many things in the Declaration of Independence, which to me is, who cares what they title it? These are like a set of philosophies, rules to live by.
That was really just a letter to the king saying, hey, this is what we believe. Fuck around and find out. That's what the Declaration is all about.
Well, in the book that I have, they're in the same book. So if it's a book of laws, book of rules, book of statements, book of opinions, it's our most important document. It's our treatise on the legitimacy of this country. So if you don't view the Declaration of Independence as also being a set of rules to live by, I don't understand why that's questionable.
What do you think of the Albany? Familiar with that?
Sorry, what was the question?
Are you familiar with the Albany Plan?
No.
So the Albany Plan was the first attempt by Americans to distinguish themselves and establish their own government. However, the Constitution calls for. The Albany Plan was even less restrictive. I'm driving right now. I quote you some things from it. But,
You know the movie The Big Lebowski, when he's sleeping with Maud, she's like, so tell me about yourself, Mr. Lebowski. And he's like, well, I was one of the authors of the Port Huron Statement. So I went on eBay and I typed in Port Huron Statement, and I bought a copy of like the original Port Huron Statement. I think it's like a student revolutionary little pamphlet. But I'm just saying the primary source documents, in my opinion, completely invalidate our entire economic model, let alone the size of government, all the agencies, all the employees. Maybe it's because I'm reading the Constitution and everything that we're doing is, in my opinion, is anti-constitutional or opposing the Constitution, which is a very limited set of rules and scope and the size of everything, the size of the scope, the size of the charter, as if we have completely mutated, as a country. But
but that's to be expected. I mean, if you and I started a business and we created an employee handbook, when there's 5 employees, that handbook's going to look different than if there was 5,000 employees. So I think that there's having scope creep, especially in a government sense. I think it goes with the territory. I think what you're illustrating though is that not only is it outside of the bounds, it's diametrically opposed to the original intention, which I think. I think if we were as patriotic as we say we are, we would have some major grievances. In fact, I would argue that the grievances in the Declaration of Independence were far smaller in scope than the grievances that modern day Americans have with today's federal government. At some point, I think somebody needs to pen a new Declaration of Independence and challenge the legitimacy.
No, we are becoming the fascist United States of America. So if we are a fascist state, is Trump our fascist leader?
Just one in a long line of them.
But what if he's anti-fascist and it's the Democrats running all of these states and cities, which are the true fascists amongst us, and he's a great liberator of these fascists?
Is there a big city that you think is run well? In the entire United States, think of a city with let's call it 500,000 people or more. Like if you get to a million, then there's just too few of them. But 500,000 people or more. Name one that's ran well.
Well, I've been to Austin. That seemed like a pretty clean operation to me.
Think it'll remain that way with all the Californians going there?
See, that to me, that's not like a city. It's got to be grimy. It can't be like a beautiful desert environment spread out. Like if you go to New York City and the fact that you see so much trash and rats just piled up everywhere. I mean, I know it's old, but there's got to be better. You know, I'm not an OCD person with regards to cleanliness, but you know, New York City is like there's some of it is like next level filth that I've never seen in at any other major U.S. city.
You ever been to Vancouver, BC?
No, I know. I've heard it's beautiful.
They do a pretty good job. Although there's an area called Hastings. It's just a street, several blocks that basically, if you want to be homeless or if you want to use heroin, that's like where you go. And if you're caught doing that,